Welcome, everybody.
Welcome. We are back. How you doing?
Some good energy today. We're hyped.
Yeah, I'm a little extra hyped, and we'll get into that later. I know, Jeff, you had a wild week last week. I did as well, and man, I think it's probably time we just jump right into it.
Oh, yeah, man. It's life.
Yeah, man. So let me tell you, man. So today,
don't dip your toe in.
Just go. So today, today is a Wednesday, and I won't date it too much, but it's any given a random Wednesday. And we've had this plan since before last week because last week we couldn't get together. So so today I try to make sure that by the time we go and record this that I'm in my happy place, right? I avoid too much caffeine. I avoid a big heavy meal. I make sure I've had a good night's rest the night before. And I try to avoid using cannabis. And I really don't drink anymore, so alcohol's almost off the plate. So really just try to have a clean slate.
Yeah, I had caffeine.
I also, I did too a little bit, but not as much as what I used to. I'm trying to work on that. So, you know, I'm in my zone and I'm like, I ain't leaving the house today.
Yeah.
I'm chilling. My son says, Dad, I want something for lunch. It's not here. And my first thought is like, shit, I just wanted to stay at home.
There's a billion, delivery services
There
now.
are, and I should have taken advantage of them.
You know, I'm not being mean to those, but, you know, some people don't trust them and stuff. But
well, I don't, that doesn't really come into my thought
I've never used
for
them.
this. I have, and they're fine. I think the last time we actually threw in an extra order of fries just so the guy had something to munch on while he was bringing me my food. You know, I was like, dude, don't eat my fries. But anyway, so today, I digress a little. My apologies. My son wants something. You know, my daughter's busy doing homework. It's one of the days home doing school, and he's all done. And hell, he's already been out skateboarding, and he got his first ollie over an obstacle, and like we were both celebrating. And for those of you that don't know, it's just a jump on a skateboard where the board leaves the ground and your feet don't really leave the board. So a little bit of trickery there.
YouTube.
Yeah. And so my son, he nails this today, his first one over an object. And it was like, you know what, dude, I just told him if you go do it, I'll go get you that lunch you wanted. You know?
I think that's a fair deal.
I think so too. But I was still in the back of my mind reeling from the fact that, like, shit, my plans went to shit. My expectation for the day has gone to shit.
I agree.
Even though I told my son, you do this and I'll go do that for you.
Yeah.
Knowing all too well that the little shit's probably going to do it.
Oh.
And he does it, and I'm thankful for it, and I love him for it. I absolutely adore watching him progress in anything. So I say, okay, fine, let me get my flip-flops on, you know, and let me try to get myself in the mode of actually going out in public now.
Yeah.
You know, because for me, that becomes a process now. So get everything going. I get in the car, I go, and I'm behind the slowest person I've ever been behind.
Yep.
I'm like, okay, well, Jeff's going to be over in about an hour and a half. That gives me about an hour based on this person's speed. So I finally get to a point where I can overtake them a little bit and don't have to be an idiot. And I finally get to the place where I'm going for the food. And it's one of these drive-thrus where they got 2 lanes, and I'm behind this massive long lane.
They don't have 3 because there's one now that has 3 lanes.
Well, they better, because that's all everybody does now is go through drive-thrus.
They're popular as can be.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure anybody listening can pick which fast food chain that is. And their style, they're not open on Sundays.
Yeah, so anyway, this one is open on Sundays, the one I'm talking about. It's open all the time. But anyway, so there's a super long line in one. And I'm sitting there thinking, well, why isn't anybody going to the next lane? All of a sudden, people start coming in. They start going in that second lane. I'm like, well, fine, heck with this. I'm going to go in the second lane too. So I get over there. Nobody seems to mind. Okay, whatever. I get over there. Takes a little bit, but I expect it. You know, now I'm okay. Now I'm in that zone of like
lunchtime kind of traffic.
Yeah. Ooh, excuse me. Yeah, I'm in that zone. I'm like, okay, cool. Got some some Rogan on or something. I'm chilling in the old Mercedes wagon, just doing my thing. And I have to pull up to one of these spots, and the person in front of me is not pulling up, so I can't. So I got to wait a bit. So then I pull around them and get to my waiting spot for my son's food.
Mm-hmm.
You know, by the way, this place does not have salads like my daughter wanted since I was going. So I said, all right, well, now I got to go to a second place. So I get done, and I don't know if that's Dad of the Year material or if that's dumbass material.
I think that's just catering to your kids. It's not. We've done that before. Like my wife and I went a place, and our daughter doesn't like anything from there, and then we run by another place to get her something.
Yeah, it happens.
I think that's just a parent thing.
Yeah.
That you're just like, all right, I'd rather you eat something than you sit here and complain that we got you something from there.
Yeah.
It's just easier to take the 10 extra minutes to get whatever.
And my daughter, she's been on a on a diet plan or a meal plan that really doesn't include fast food, obviously. So it was a salad. So I had to get her something.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden, all these cars around me, they're all leaving. They're all gone. So now I'm just sitting there on an island, and there's almost nobody in the drive-thru. And finally, this young man comes out, and he is huffing. And you can tell that this young man loves his job, and I loved him for it. But when he come to the window and he said, "Sir, are you waiting for something?" And I looked at him, he must have thought like I was super angry. My look was one of like disbelief. I was like,
what?
Why would I be here if I wasn't waiting for something? But I tried to squash that. And I said, yeah, I'm waiting for this meal. I said, here's my receipt. I've gotten nothing. Okay, so another 10 minutes goes by.
Yeah.
I finally get the meal and everything. Okay, cool. I move along. I go to the next place. I come out of there. Again, the slowest person I could have ever imagined to be behind. So I have nothing. I have no recourse. I have no option because right now in my brain, I do my best to say, you know what? Unless you're on a multi-lane road, don't pass people.
Yeah.
Just make yourself slow down. Make yourself pull back.
That was me today. Like normally I'm on like, I drive a little faster, but today I was just kind of like chill.
Yeah.
Like I didn't leave in the time frame I wanted to, but I was like, all right, I'll get there. I might be a few minutes late, but I still got here a few minutes early, and I was like, okay, but I just cruised, and everything aligned perfectly. But not to say that's always the case. Like before, we talked about been behind every slow person, hit every light, and it's just like you just kind of, like you're saying, you just got to get in that kind of lane and just like, oh, man, we're going to cruise.
Yeah. And so I did my best impersonation of that today, but it wasn't quite working the way that it normally does. I kept doing it. I kept forcing myself, and I did it, and they finally turned off, and I got home, and everything was fine. And in all reality, it was 30 to 45 extra minutes out of my day that I wasn't expecting that went awry. But as soon as I get back inside and I see my son, who is still amped about making his first ollie, and, you know, my daughter's done with her homework, so I actually get to see her face, which is pretty awesome. Those of you with teenage girls, you know what I mean. And I had to realize that everything I had just been through was just a lesson. Yeah. It was a lesson in hey, try not to expect too much because you never know when things may change. Yeah. It was a lesson in patience. Yeah. It was a lesson in kindness. It
goes back to what we talked about before as well, too, that you didn't react from the hip. You actually thought about like compassion with love. My thought process is backed by love versus you could have snapped at it. You could have come home pissed because you were behind how many slow people. You could have been like, I had to run to all these places, this and this. You guys better be happy with you could have brought all the little things that slowed down the journey home. Yep. But you got home, they got their food, and you saw like, man, my son's pumped. He got his meal. Got to see my daughter because she's out of her room done with her homework. Yep. Those things are the rewarding aspect where you're like, oh, okay, it's cool.
But how many times do you look past those rewards as like, well, you I guess it's hard to look at them as rewards when you don't feel like that it was a lesson.
Yeah. And you got to look at it in that way. Like, I'll jump onto my little ship.
Yeah, please do.
Well, so last week before we hopped on, I told Jeremy, I won't go into great detail about, but had, some instances we all do in life, and had a person, threaten me, which, that's happened before in life. And it's just like, all right, whatever. And just scout it off. But it's more so the people around me that I didn't want to. And then I, immediately think of my family and things. And it's like, in that moment, you got a million options running through your head. Well, you could, one, start causing harm to somebody, going at it, try to, down the conversation, get them a little calmer and things, and just don't react. But yeah, it's a lesson that I think if, you rewind time back to 18 years ago, 18-year-old, 20-year-old, Jeff, it would have been like, oh, it's on, let's go. It would have been like light switch, go. But it's like the lessons that you learn in life that the things that you want to react on, as we talked about, you can't. There's a lot of repercussions for dumb reactions in
Yeah.
life versus as you get older, mature, you sit that, let the wheels grind. Okay. Yeah. Okay. De-escalate the situation. Okay. Okay. No big deal. Versus reacting and all this kind of thing. But it's that same thing of compassion for love, because maybe that individual, something happened to them today that I'm now just a scapegoat for that moment.
Yeah.
That you're lashing out at me just because everything came to that culmination right then and there, and I just unfortunately happened to be in the wave of it.
Yeah.
Nothing happened. I'm fine. Whole situation's good and fine. But it's like, you guys got to think about that when the things happen or someone goes off on you, car slow. Why are they going slow? Why are they going off? Take a moment to kind of flip it and see what's going on in their world. It's a hard thing to do, and I can't say that I am always on top of that, but it's a thing, though, I think as I get older, a little wiser, you get closer to, you just kind of like, okay. And that's all I can say for it,
But here's the thing, though. Like, you don't only get wiser in, like, regards to, okay, now I'm not treating this person poorly.
Yeah.
But you're treating yourself better now. Because
Yes.
when you go home, those feelings of anxiety and tension and stress and rage or anger or fear or whatever, those aren't with you.
Yeah.
You left those in that scenario in the past. It's no longer with you. You are not carrying your past with you, even if it was 20 minutes ago. Dude, you let it go.
Yeah.
And that's what you had to do. Because if you didn't, we wouldn't be having this podcast or this conversation.
Yeah, and I think to piggyback off what you said perfectly is, leave your past in the past, the baggage and emotion, but carry the lessons of your past with you. The lessons will get you a hell of a lot further than holding on to the anger, the hatred, the sadness, heartbreak, whatever. Now, good memories, obviously keep those. But those bad things and those lessons that were the bumps and the speed bumps in your life, push all those emotions from it, take the lesson and push that forward.
Yeah.
And it's things like, thinking of my martial arts instructors and teachings, it's like, when I used to fight, you do not do this outside of sanctioned events or in training. This shit does not go down. You don't do this to somebody for no hell of a reason. Now, if your life's threatening, then you take it. But no physical altercation. It was words, as most people, thankfully were. But no, it's like there's no point in escalating it beyond.
Well, some people train for their soul and some people train for their ego.
Yeah.
And some people don't realize that the ego isn't just a bad part. It's a protector. It's there to make you feel good and comfortable. And hey, everything's okay.
Oh, yeah.
But it's also the thing that says, hey, let's use what we know for bad.
True.
Because it makes us feel better.
And exactly, it's that where you have such an inflated ego that you think you're invincible, which
there's that.
No one is. Yeah. You get those people that their egos are so inflated, they just think that they're, God's gift to green earth. They run it. They tell other people about it. They make other people feel little and try and make them feel great. If that's what you got to do is belittle other people and your ego, that's fine. But those are the people that like you got to pull away from and realize, as we again talked about, let your ego go. Like there's certain scenarios where swallow your pride, admit you're wrong. Don't react from the hip. Sit there and take a moment, react with love, and like, all right, whatever.
If you tell yourself enough bullshit for long enough, that bullshit becomes truth, and then you start looking at other things as bullshit. But then that can become your truth.
And then life is hazy.
And then life, man, you don't even know where the hell you were.
Yeah,
like you were drinking a lager, and all of a sudden you got some cloudy IPA, and now you're like, I can't see shit. I want my lager back.
And it goes back to like
it's on you,
episode 11 of talking about being an actor in your own life. Like, those are things, guys, that you got to really look at the people around you, the things that you're told day in and day out. Like, you can look at the media. That shit will poison your brain full of negativity because you don't know what's real from fake. Mm-hmm. All the shit we're going through now.
Dude, watch the movie Social Dilemma. It just came out. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Oh, no. But I've heard good things.
Dude, they take the idea of social media and the technology and how the platforms work, mm-hmm. and how they figure out what to show you next, mm-hmm. what they want you to see next. And it talks about how, like, if you just type into Google and you're here in the Midwest, Donald Trump, Joe Biden, whatever you type in, it's going to give you results based on your location, not based on the entire world's algorithm.
Interesting.
It's amazing, but it makes sense. It's almost like whenever you hop onto Facebook as a small business to do an ad or something.
Yeah.
You can pinpoint. You can say, I want 18 to 35-year-olds. I want them to be in Dallas and Austin. I want them to be to like X, Y, or Z. It is an advertising and a marketing. It's genius. But that movie talks to all that, and it will make you realize, people, it's a slippery slope, and it's really dangerous, and it's scary as hell. I'll just say that. Just go watch The Social Dilemma. It's on Netflix, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. I've heard a lot of people talk about it in other podcasts, but no, it's those same things of like, you're fed these things and you have to decide what you want your life to be. Yeah. You know, as we said before, you control your own happiness. There's no, water bottle, I'm happy. Yeah, something
there is.
Yeah, something it's
perceived.
Can make you happy for a monetary moment.
Yeah.
But then when that fades, what do you go to next? You control your happiness. Your mindset, you control it, not somebody else.
And that's not their fault, though, either, Jeff.
No.
We've all been conditioned by...
And that's the thing you guys kind of got to see what things you can cut out in life. You know, if it's a horrible person, scenario, you know, certain things are harder than others, the job, whatever, but find things that can kind of start to rewire those things. Or one, you know, I'm not on Facebook a lot because it's flooded by nonsense. At least on Instagram, you kind of can have a better threshold of what you're seeing.
Yeah.
You know, if you start searching a bunch of like car stuff, then mostly you're going to get spit car stuff for a while, you know,
right.
Whatever you're looking at. Yeah. So that's normal. But yeah, like Facebook, you'll still get the people that'll put crap out and share things. And it's like, all right. And the biggest thing is, yes, you might be friends with them and you can block or not block them, but hide them is what it calls it.
Yeah.
But if you read it, don't acknowledge it. That's the first thing you need to do. If someone does that, no different than if you get threatened and there's no harm actually going to come upon it, nothing needs to be done.
Right.
I can't think of Ryan's last name. Dude who has a podcast. He talked about, like, you know, people spitting hate speech. Unless they're physically going to harm you and you know there's something going to happen in that moment, there's no need for you to respond to any of it.
Well, that's why it's dangerous, too. And I mean, I'm a concealed carry card owner.
Yeah.
And I like that I have the right to do that, but it's also very scary because at no point in my training, even though I'd been trained in the military, and then again for my class, there was no point in any of that training where anybody really talked about how to de-escalate situations.
No, but it's no different than, like,
you know,
so I don't know your military, you know, but police training, they get so much of it, but we could do every scenario we could come up with. And guess what? In the real world, oh shit, that scenario we didn't cover.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying that, like, hey, that should be a standard, but you know, sometimes I'll leave my firearm at home, even if I'm going to an area or a situation where I know that it's like, it's a little shady, maybe, because, and I think maybe we talked about this prior off microphone, but if I have it, I'm more prone to using it, whether it's needed or not. If there's a cheeseburger on the counter, it's got my name on it, I'm probably gonna eat it.
I think you're right with some of that.
You know what I mean?
I think would be more inclined to than some.
I think so too. But there is the problem, is that there is that possibility.
I think I would be more inclined to rely on what I've trained, but that's different because most people don't have that.
That's what I'm saying.
But again, it's the same thing. I may have trained in martial arts for years. I have no desire to use it outside of I wanted to train in it for the sport, not life scenarios.
Yeah. I understand and completely
I think
agree
you
with
from the military aspect, but you know, that was
my
part
thing
of it,
is,
but if you still taught you between what you should and shouldn't do.
If you don't, well, that's a great start. What you should and shouldn't do is a great start. But all too often, we don't understand anything more than we should or shouldn't. It's the same thing as when your kid says something, you go, well, because dad said so.
Yeah. Well, dad says one thing and mom said this.
Possibly.
Yeah. Okay. Or when it goes, well, ask your father.
Yeah.
No. Well, then you go back to mom.
Yeah.
And then, you go back and forth. You know, my daughter does it, and I did it as a kid. You ask one parent, you're like, no. Hey, can I go do this? Well, what'd your mom say? No. Or what'd your dad say? No. Well, then why are you asking me?
Right. Yeah, man.
You think your answer's going to change? And I think that's where so much of what we see in that day and day from social media, coworkers, maybe, everything, all the stimuli that you're exposed to, you're like trying to, get rid of the fog, the beer goggles, in a sense of, what are you really seeing each day? Like, are you pushing this fog, this smoke out of the way so you see clearly and with clarity in each day? And that goes back to, well, what are you watching?
Yeah. What are you reading?
What are you reading?
Yeah.
Who are you hanging out with?
Who are you hanging out with? Yeah.
What are you doing in your life that is making you go forward,
Right.
not backwards? And maybe you're on a little detour now. You're getting on the new path. So, okay, maybe you're going left or right. So, but either way,
Right.
What are you doing in your day-to-day life that is, pushing you through this fog that then you emerge in the meadow and it's like, oh, wow, this is clear. Like, that's what people do, and that took me a while this past year of,
Yeah, sure.
finding like, you know what, I got to get through this fog, this haze, these ups and downs. And then you emerge and it's like, I'm where I need to be. And
Yeah.
I think that's one part of the journey, but you also as an individual have to sit there and find that path. You can't just sit there in the fog. It'll clear. It won't. You will sit there and you will be lost.
Because you'll
you
keep
will
doing the
continue to be
same cycles. You'll read
Yes.
the same things. You'll hang out with the same people. You'll get into this biosphere that's got all these toxins in it, and you don't even realize it. So this leads right into my next point. I'm not going to tell you that you're not to blame or you're not at fault, but none of that matters.
Yeah.
None of that matters. And I'm not going to tell you that it's your fault or you're to blame for the things that you're angry about that you read about on social media or in the news.
Yeah.
I will tell you that it's your fault if somebody tells you if you just stop listening, it all goes away.
Yes.
If you don't listen to us when we tell you, it all stops listening. Or if you stop listening, it just all goes away. We promise that.
Mm-hmm.
That's what happens. Now, if a tree falls in the forest, it makes a noise. You don't hear it. It still makes a noise. You just didn't hear it, right? That's what I believe. So much like that, things are still happening. You're not ignorant.
Yeah.
But when you see them, they don't suck you in.
Mm-hmm.
When you do read it, you find the humor in it.
Oh, yeah.
Not the gut-wrenching, just boiling rage that this shit turns us into. So here's where I'm going with this. You want to be mad at somebody about who's going to be in office or who's done what. Be mad at yourself. Because we've let, as a society, as the world, we've let the advertisers, the marketers, the corporations tell us what we want, how we want it, where we're going to put it, and then who's going to put it where after that. We are the ones that now like things more than we do people or places.
Yeah.
We are the ones that keep giving them our money.
Yeah.
If that machine doesn't have the fuel, us and our money, the machine goes away.
Yeah.
That starts with small machines to medium machines to large machines. But people, who the fuck is going to do it if we don't?
No, we control every aspect of what's going on, and it just fuels because, like Jeremy's saying, you watch the things that poison you, you give them ratings. That gives them more. You see more commercials. Those commercials then input things into your head. You stop watching, ratings go down. They don't get as much funding. Commercials that are trying to brainwash you, some yes, some no.
Yeah.
Those get pulled because they're not making money. It's an endless cycle.
It is.
As of life.
Yeah. Just go and sit in a board meeting when the numbers are down.
Oh, yeah.
And it ain't about how can we help people. It's not
about-
it's tightening the
Yeah.
right?
And it's all those things. And it's the same thing with social media. If you don't sit there and interact with that stuff, you just scroll by it or hide those people that are posting the crap you don't want to see.
Yeah.
You don't worry about it.
Right.
But I would say, like, I'll read some people's posts that put up some just horrible things, that they're on this side, they're on this, I don't care, whatever. And it's just like, what? That's your opinion. Have at it. But
right.
I'm not a keyboard warrior. I never will be.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you, I'll tell it to your face. I'm old school here.
Right.
It's not going to be that, but it's like,
Yeah.
You guys just have to scroll by those things or change the channel.
Well, let's take that then. Okay, so now we've talked about social media, and we've talked about social media a lot on here. But let's take this. Okay, you're on social media. You run an errand. You get a notification. You're sitting in your car. You're back on social media. Okay, your mind is in social media world.
Yeah.
You're in a parking lot. You got to drive now. You're still in social media world, and you're out driving. So if something pissed you off on that phone, guess what? Now you're going to take it out on the person around you.
Yeah, so now you're driving fast. You're
Thank you.
riding somebody's ass.
Thank you. So social media, it's a lesson, folks. It's a lesson, and we are losing. We are not learning our lesson. This shit has been handed down to us by somebody that's much smarter than us, and it's not to ruin us. It's to give us enough rope to hang ourselves. And right now we're doing it.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I mean, and that's not to get too
from
dark
what
on
I've
it.
heard
I mean,
about social dilemma, that, like you're just talking about, like, people talk about the addictions to phones and devices and the things. And I heard some people talking about, like, oh my God, then you realize, like, you do those things, like, wow.
yeah.
It's
It's an eye opener, but
and
it's even more so an eye opener how it translates to our day-to-day life, even if you don't get on it.
Oh, well, you got an iPhone. I got an iPhone, as most of the world does. It's the number one phone. You have the usage. It tells you each week. You can either turn it on or off.
Oh, yeah.
I think I left mine on.
Yeah.
But it's interesting, since I left my former career path, which is a social media driven company. I get that, but you see how many hours I'm not on that. Like, I'll pop on, but now it's like specific things I'm looking for.
Targeted.
So now I'm like looking at truck stuff. I'm like, okay, let's get ideas of what other people done, like cool things, whatever. Or I'll look at weightlifting stuff because there's been stuff going on, and I like CrossFit Games are back, which I didn't know until that started flickering back.
Yeah,
So I guess it's going to be. I guess they qualified online and doing it.
I'm really surprised I didn't hear 5,000 people talking about it.
I think it's different since Glassman ran his mouth earlier this year.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
New owners, new venture, which I
good
think
riddance.
They needed new blood.
Yeah, they did.
But it's cool to see each week usage down on social media. Now I use my phone for texting. Most of it is podcast. If you literally look at it,
Yeah.
it's hours of it.
Which doesn't really count.
No, well, yeah. So that's, but yeah, because I'm not staring at it. I'm listening to it.
Yep.
And then talking on the phone. But I believe every phone maker now has a usage thing. And I know devices because you can control it for your kids. Look at your usage on your phone. What are you actually doing?
Yeah.
It'll tell you if you're on social media, productivity.
Yeah.
Are you on the phone? Look at what you're doing. And if you're spending ample hours on social media a week, you need to back it off. Like, it's pretty cool when I can look at the end of a week and I might have spent maybe 2 hours on social media over 7 days.
Mm-hmm.
That's not bad versus when before it was god awful, like, that's a lot of time in a day that were spent on social media.
Yep. And were you like dialing in post for your business? No, you weren't.
Wasn't enriching me. It was doing my job, which I get, but it's like that was not doing anything to mentally or better myself. It was just doing something to check a box, as a lot of people don't like to say. But there's some good to social media. There is advertising. It's great for businesses. It's cool to connect with people that aren't around, family, friends. Look at sports. I think it's got a lot of good, but you got to do that. But when you're spending hours and hours and hours and hours on it and there's nothing coming from it, why are you doing that? Again, it goes back, which I'm assuming when I watch social dilemma, you're addicted to that damn device and stuff.
It's okay. So it's weird. Let me go back to that conversation we were having. You're not so much addicted to the device, because think about when you had this phone before Facebook. I had the first iPhone ever.
I didn't get it until...
I had the second one, the third one. I've had every single one.
4.
But dude, only what was it, 2011, 2012-ish, when Facebook started hitting and some other things after, like MySpace, because MySpace didn't really...
Well, so yeah, Facebook in 2002 era, that 2001 was college. 2005. What?
2005?
Yeah, wrong time. 2005-ish, 4-6. It was for just big universities. It had not trickled down to something small. So you had to be at a pretty big university.
Okay, so then you have the device. You play games on it.
But it wasn't on phones yet. phones weren't.
Okay, maybe not then.
Phones didn't have. Well, they might have had internet, but there was no apps, and the iPhone didn't come out until
2007.
Yeah,
2007 was.
I don't even know if
the first
Facebook
iPhone.
was an app.
I don't think it was.
Be something interesting.
But you
rabbit hole tech.
So okay, so it's not necessarily the device; it's the tools that are on it that are supposed to be for your usage.
Mm-hmm.
But in order to serve you up the most beneficial usage, both to you and to them,
yeah,
it's just everything you do is just fuel for them. Okay, so this is going back to the part of the conversation a few moments ago. Whenever I said that the people that we have to blame are a little outside of ourselves, right? But again, we shouldn't probably say blame. The people we have to thank,
yeah,
right, are them. Because now let's take two people. Let's take me 2 years ago
mm-hmm.
and me today. Because all I can speak to is me. 2 years ago, I would have had more satisfaction in this Buddy Christ showing up in my mail than me hugging a friend for what some would probably consider an uncomfortably long amount of time. Today, funny, cool, haha, that's going to be great on the set. I will hug someone until they either tell me to stop or I'm ready to go. And I mean hug somebody, I mean chest to chest, because I'm connecting with somebody in a different way that we don't normally do every day.
Well, especially now with this whole madness of COVID, that you're limiting those, even like your immediate family. Like if you had someone in the medical community, now you come home and we've been brainwashed all of 2020 that, hey, brother, how you doing?
Yeah.
The handshake, the knuckles, the
Everything.
the hugs, everything,
Makes it very impersonal.
We've been told, don't do those things. We've literally been brainwashed. No more human interaction. So then where do you go to find a piss poor substitute? You turn to a device, technology.
True. Yeah.
You go to find those emotions that you're supposed to be connecting with significant others, your kids, your family, friends. Those emotions that you need as a human to exist, you're now turning to social media to find happiness, sadness, love. You're trying to connect physically through a flipping device to get the emotion that we've been told since February, I guess, March, that, oh, no, don't do that. Don't do that. No, no contact, no touching, no this. So now you go to these things, and then it's just poison more through all that.
You hop off right before the dinner conversation. You were just in social media world. Now where are you? Where's your head at? Were you able to turn all that shit off? Were you able to get all that? You know what I mean?
The thing that's like got very hard, and I was always asked that when I fought. Like, how do you do that? And I go, what do you mean? How do you fight? Like, how do you sit in a locker room? You walk out. You got your walkout music. You do the routine. They check you for your gloves, your nails, your cup, your mouth guard. And you go, all right, here, and you get in there. How do you literally go from chill to, oh, it's time to go? And I go, well, it's like any athlete. It's game time.
Yeah.
But then everyone's like, well, how do you turn that off? Like, after, don't you just want to keep, like, going? And it was much harder. And like, they've talked about this with Tyson. I think Rogan did, talking to him, like, when Mike would knock people out in 30-some-odd seconds, you trained for months. Now, I wasn't a professional fighter. I didn't train like Tyson did. But, yeah, like, my fight camps would be 3 months, and you knock somebody out in 10, 20, 30 seconds. It's like, shit. Now you have to turn all that off. Well, what do you do? And I go, it's literally, to me, it's a light switch. I know when it needs to be on, and I know when it needs to be off. And I've kind of carried that over into other aspects of life. And I've had hard times at previous, as you know, we sat here and I've vented to you as you were my therapist. Still are.
Sure. Likewise, brother.
Yeah. That I'd leave, the job and come and it'd be like, oh, this, and this. And it was hard to turn that off. And then I tried to get better that I would turn it off in the drive by what I listened to, what I was doing, that when I got home, either if I was working out, I didn't give it to my family. And it was so hard because my days never ended.
Yeah.
It was 24/7 that something was constantly needed to be done or being reached out to. And that's a hard thing. So eventually it was just like, I got to that point and all my coworkers like, how the hell, how do you, I go, I'm at one with it, man. I just know. I was like, no, I'll get to you.
Well, and let's provide a lesson. Another one. Okay, so Jeff talked about everything you just talked about, being able to turn things on and turn things off. One of the biggest things that we have to turn off as a people in this society is self-talk.
Oh,
And okay, so you can't turn anything off if you're constantly telling yourself to turn it off, turn it
Well,
off, turn it on, turn it off, turn it off.
to interject real quick.
Yeah.
If you're always on a social media device and you're looking at things, you're not hearing yourself talk.
No,
Your self-talk
right, yeah.
becomes exactly what the visual aspect is you're seeing.
Right.
Yeah.
And what I'm really referring to is, let's say you're sitting on the couch and you're just trying to relax for a minute. You just need some downtime, right? You're a little tired, whatever. Sit down, and the kids are just blah, 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 blah. And the first thing that you want that comes to mind is, would you guys please be effing quiet or whatever? Okay?
Yeah.
That's the first thing you think. Do me a favor. Suppress that. Wait about 10 seconds and you tell me where it went.
Breathe. Yep.
Tell me what it did. Tell me if it provided any help to you or them. Even if, okay, and then look back.
Mhm.
Hindsight now. Well, if I would have done it, they would have gotten frightened or angry or upset. I would have probably felt like an ass. Probably wouldn't have said it outwardly, but I would feel like an ass.
Mm-hmm.
And I guarantee you, when you spit out that negative energy, those positive vibes that you're trying to feel on your couch, they ain't coming, brother.
Mm-hmm.
They ain't coming, sister. That's not how this shit works.
No.
But the moment you shut the hell up and you say, you know what? I don't really have anything to add right here. I wish the situation was a little different, but maybe if I just shut the fuck up inside my own head, everything else will shut up.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what? It does. It does. Just stop talking. And I mean inside your head and outside. And when you start to feel like you just got to say something, this is going to sound crazy. Go find that kid or that spouse or that friend or whoever that you were just going to implode on and go give them a hug.
Yeah.
Just go give them a fucking
Yeah,
hug.
you said it before too. Just don't respond. Just listen.
Mm-hmm.
And you know,
Yeah, act like your mouth's sewn shut.
We've heard this many a times, but it's one of those things. It's to do.
Yeah.
You know, and you will be amazed of just how you won't have stupid bickering, fights, bullshit, how the mood will change with yourself or whomever, that if you just take that moment and like, quiet, be quiet,
Hey, man.
be quiet, be quiet, 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 and then all like, okay.
Yeah, it's almost like when you look up at the sky and you're like, oh shit, there is a storm coming. And you run inside and you freak out and everybody goes in the bathroom or in the basement, right? But then you go back upstairs and you're like, storm's sort of blowing the other way.
Mm-hmm.
If you would have sat and watched, not said anything, you would have seen storm just like everything else is going to fucking pass.
Yeah.
And you'll be fine. People don't, we haven't, I say people, myself included, just yesterday, yesterday I went out for a walk with my gorgeous wife. And she was telling me how she was going to do something. And I told her how it really wasn't enough. She needed to do more. There was some truth in what I said. But again, as I've said a couple episodes back, sometimes when you're right, you're wrong.
Yeah.
You know, if I would have just said, hey, you know what? That's a great first step.
Mm-hmm.
Good for you. I'm proud of you. And then in a week, maybe she does what I was thinking she was going to do.
Yeah.
But I didn't have it in me. I wasn't in that place where I was telling myself to just listen. Instead, I reacted. So please don't think that I'm preaching.
Yeah.
Not at all, right?
It's hard to be in that place all the time that you're going to listen. It's not going to happen.
We mess up so many times.
But it's through that trial and error of these lessons that you get better and better and better and better, that they're less frequent.
Yeah, man.
Because we can honestly sit here and say it's going to happen. It's never going to. Oh, well, no, it's done. No, that's just lying out our asses.
Yeah.
We're going to mess up,
but they're lessons,
and that's what you have to do. You got to take them with that, grain of salt. Take it for what it is. Take those little things.
Yes.
I'll pull it back to driving again. Think about when you learned how to drive. Little things that the driver's ed or mom, dad, grandma, grandpa. Like me, I learned how to do a lot of my driving with my grandparents because.
Right.
I needed the hours, so my parents were working. Where do you want to go?
Yeah.
I will take you. Chauffeur Jeff.
And
And it's those little like, this, like those things, like you have to have that, like adrenaline rush moment. You're like, okay, no to pay attention. As like No different than you'll probably tell your kids, put the damn phone down when you go out and drive. Let it be. That wasn't something we had to be told, you know?
Yeah. I think the best thing you do for a kid when they're driving is scare the fucking shit out of them so they stop, piss their pants a little bit,
Oh, well,
and then realize that, hey, when you have to do that, you're still going to be okay.
yeah.
You know, it's just, some kids get afraid and they start to like fucking shake the wheel and hit the gas or do whatever. Calm the fuck down, like Jeff said.
Yeah, but it's those things. It's like, you guys, it's just life lessons that you just got to take the moment that you messed up and go, all right, should have kept my mouth shut. Yes, that. And then you just take it, put it in the back pocket for another scenario when it comes. And it's like, okay, again, I'll reiterate, take your life lessons with you forward. Leave the baggage of the bad emotion behind it.
Okay, so then let's share something else based on that. If you're taking a lesson with you, what is the best way to continue to sharpen that knife, if you will? Just to share that lesson. It's to teach that lesson, right? See one, do one, teach one.
Yeah,
that was my mantra
if
in the
you
Air
can,
Force.
If you can, something that happened,
Right.
and you can relate it to your kid, coworker, friend, whomever, and something's going, hey, let me tell you, man, something similar I went through, did this or that, you know.
Well,
and I think that's a good point that, you know, we can teach our kids, or you teach people that are younger than you, or
Right.
even older than you. It doesn't matter, but a lot of things that we can teach for those of us who are older, and, you know, sometimes you're wiser, not always, but teach those lessons to those young kids. And that, like, you know, one of my employees, like, you know, they're younger, about their harping on their parents. I'm like, well, what did you do that potentially has them that? Well, what has changed? Well, nothing, you know, now I'm driving. Ah, you're driving. That is why.
Yeah.
That is why your parents are being more cautious. You have more responsibility than you ever have. You're behind something that can cause harm not only to you, but others. Whereas before, you did not have that responsibility. So they're being a little bit more difficult, stricter riding you because you now have a great responsibility. You are able to drive. And there's a lot of consequences that can come from that.
And it goes from nothing to 100.
Yeah.
Like, hey.
And driving is a privilege. It's not a right, as many people want to think. No, there's no right that says you should
I'm actually
drive.
happy a lot of these young kids these days don't even want to drive. They just, I mean, why?
One of my
You
clients is stepson thinks 18, doesn't drive. He doesn't want to.
Yeah. I don't blame him.
He's been able to get rides.
Yeah.
He's like, then I got to, because they want, like, well, then I got to save money for my car, or, you know, borrow the family car. And he's like, I don't really need it. I have means by others.
Well, maybe this is the same kid that says, Dad, Mom, I don't want to go to college because what I want to do doesn't require college.
Yeah.
Right? And that it's probably the same kind of kid.
Well,
it's a free thinker.
The family owns a bakery, and could you go to culinary school? Sure, but you can learn the trade that's been passed down 100+ years from the family if you really wanted. But whatever option he chooses. But it's those things that it's taken, like you said, like the triangle, the trifecta of what did I take, who am I teaching, what am I taking away with it from? But that's what it should always be, is related to the knife or the axe. You know, you're always sharpening it, like, boom, that lesson was a nick in the knife. So now you get this little dent. Now we have to resharpen it with our lessons. Now we got a nice, smooth, sharp edge. And then we're going to dull it again because we messed up in a lesson. And then you go back.
Yep.
And so if you want to put it to that way, think of like sharpening a knife, an axe, or a skill in something that every time it needs to be sharpened or, you know, a little kind of shaped up, it's that lesson it's teaching you that, oh, okay, I remember that. Okay, here we go.
Man, I go back and I look at lesson plans that I wrote whenever I used to teach, and it's almost unnerving, the difference at what I would do or say now or how I would change that. But at the time, it came across perfectly. The job was done well. Everybody learned what they needed to learn.
Yeah.
Good. But we grow.
Mhm.
We change. We adapt, right? And a lot of us are trying to adapt now, either because it's been presented to us in a way where we don't have a choice.
Yeah.
Where it's just hit us right in the face because whatever, our ego exploded, or you have people that are like, wow, I just want to be a better person, sort of look into this and figure this out. Let me share a couple of stories about this. So I got an old friend of mine that I've been thinking about a lot lately. His daughter reached out to me. It was the weirdest thing. And she said, hey, do you think I could talk to your wife about this university she went to? Because I'm thinking about going there. I said, yeah, absolutely. Reach out to her, yada, yada, yada. A few weeks goes by. I asked my wife, I said, hey, I'm just hoping I'm not dropping the ball, but did this person reach out to you? She said, no. I said, oh, crap. Well, here's her information. You reach out to her. as she's doing that, this kid's dad reaches out to me.
Mhm.
Now, they're not even in the same room together.
Yeah.
But, okay, cool. Neat timing, right? That's a coincidence, right? So I'm like, hey, man, we really need to hook up. Now, in years past, it would have been like, well, let's see, I'm out of town next week. I got this. I go, what are you doing today at 2? And he was like in the same mindset, though. He goes, bro, where do you want to go? Cool, let's meet. So I say, okay, I'm gonna meet him at a bar, an open air outside bar where we're safe. And I don't really drink much, but I'll go and I'll have a beer.
Yeah.
And I mean, just because of the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I go and we sit down, and all of a sudden I start getting some glimmers from this guy. Like, this guy, he's not the same guy he used to be.
Yeah.
Something's happened. And he's looking at me in the same way. Like, we're not the same friends.
No.
We're better.
Mm-hmm.
We both are searching for a way to do better for ourselves and those around us. And when I tell you that it was meant to be, it was meant to be.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna move on now. So now this week, he's out. He's gone. He's out in Dallas, I think, doing some work. And I've got on my schedule that I'm going to go to a studio tonight and do some meditation with a group of people for the first time. I've never done this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a lengthy meditation. It's 30-minute meditation, then post 30-minute conversation about it.
Okay.
I can't wait to do this, you know?
We get to hear about and talk about.
Yeah, yeah. And so this is another one of those things where you sort of see one, you go do it, and then hopefully I get to tell you guys about it on here. Then maybe Jeff comes and does it. But I digress. That's not part of my story. So my friend, he's gone. I already know I'm going to this thing. I reach out to a friend of mine and say, hey, another friend that's working on like mediumship and some other things like that.
Yeah.
Like a little out there, but very neat stuff. And she says, hey, I just thought of another contact for you. Here's their name. This is the name of their studio where they're at. I think she'd really be beneficial for you.
Yeah.
For your healing that you're trying to work with. And I said, you gotta be kidding me. That's a studio I'm going to do meditation at tonight. Now, there's hundreds of these studios around here.
Yeah.
But that's the one. And that's the one I'm going to go to because it's obviously the one I'm supposed to go to.
Mm-hmm.
So my point here is, people, that sometimes things happen for, I don't know, you might think of them as a coincidence. But when your intent is to make yourself better, when your intent is to really learn and to help other people learn and get better so they can in turn go do the same thing, you'll be amazed at the gifts that fall in place.
Yeah.
So, said friend, I asked him, I said, so what put the chink in your armor? What really made you think that you needed to live life a different way? And he says to me, he says, Jeremy, a good friend of mine and his wife, are good friends, one of their mothers passed away.
Okay.
And he says to me, I was at the funeral and I'm by myself, but I'm there to support.
Yeah.
And he says, it's quiet. You know, he's not really hearing what's going on. He's sort of in his own head trying to process it. And all of a sudden, he basically gets a little tap in his inner voice, but it's not his. It's a female voice.
Mm-hmm.
And he's sitting there, and he's like, am I going crazy? You know, and he's not quite sure what to think of it. And he's, now, mind you, folks, he's never even thought about, hey, you know, there's another way.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden, he says, well, who is this? And who am I talking to? And she says, it's the name of the lady who's dead.
Yeah.
It's the funeral. And the only thing he can think of is, why the hell are you talking to me? Your daughter's right there. And before he could get it out, I said it. And she had said it to him. We both said, Gary, you're the only one listening, man.
That's crazy.
And when I tell you that the hair stood up on my skin, and it did on his too, man, that's some wild stuff. And if you think for a minute that it's not possible, well, then that's your problem.
Yeah.
You know, there's things going on all around us that you don't notice.
I'll never.
Oh my goodness.
It's amazing what the human eye can't even capture.
That's right.
Like I took a picture of the moon the other morning. I was up, I've been getting up early again to work out. Nice. I'm like, you know what?
Makes you a better person, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, because I get off earlier and I'm like, man, instead of going home, and working out, I can just chill.
Yeah, man. Or maybe go record a podcast.
Yeah, so whatever. And it's just like, you get up early and it's like, man, that wasn't bad with the phone, but it doesn't even come close to what my eyes see. It's like crescent moon. I think one of the planets, I'd have to look, but it was so bright.
Yeah.
Get the moon
Like
and that.
Jupiter's always right there.
Probably one of the
super
planets.
bright.
I was like, man, it's so bright. I'm like, but my wife's like, yeah, not bad for the phone. I go, yeah, no kidding. But it's just those things that you just don't see. But it's no different than like my moment was, kind of 2019, kind of started in 2018, but 2019 is when I really was like, I got to change.
Yeah.
Not liking who I'm becoming because of what I'm involved in.
Yeah.
And it's like, I got to find a way to separate this.
I remember that.
Yeah. I got to have an endpoint of, okay, I'm here and then it stops. Then I'm home. And I couldn't get it that way. And it was just eventually like, you know what? I'm going to do things, find things that are bettering me, my life lessons, the bigger picture to become at one with it. And everybody I used to work with like, man, how the flip are you like? And I go, just come to peace with it, man.
Yeah. You've got to have a moment though.
Yeah. And,
Right?
to actually recall that specific moment, I don't know.
Well, no, but something has to happen.
But like I could kind of recall some, but I think it was a culmination. It was just like, you know what? I remember one instance and something set me off, and I just remember like, okay. Then after that, it was just like, you know what? I'm not going to open my mouth.
Yeah.
I'm not going to talk. I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do. I have no opinion. I'm here. And it freaked people out. Like, this dude doesn't say anything anymore. He's not doing this. And it's just like, I was in my own world to survive what I was dealing with. Not survive is a hard word, but to deal with what I was dealing with my day. That, okay, fire kind of had started one day, and it was just like, great. Now I got to deal with this every day. I was like, you know what? Fine. Then I just became, whoosh, and no matter what happened, it was just like, cool.
So do you compartmentalize things? And I don't mean in your head. I mean, do you say like, oh, so-and-so's got this going on at work and they're freaking out. Okay, cool. That's a thing.
Yeah.
And we have to pay attention right now. But after I'm done paying you attention, that thing is gone.
Pretty much, I try to get to that. And it's hard. And I can't say that it's always that way because with what happened last week to me at work, it carried over. But it was more worry about other people that potential harm could have come to. Obviously, nothing to de-escalate. It's done. But it's just that was my fear. It's not me. It's others.
Yeah.
And that's hard when you can't be in control of those kind of things. But as you know.
Well, listen, change affects people greatly. Either people that, like when new people come into work or new people go, it changes the dynamic.
Yeah.
Those are new energies coming in and out. So it's up to the boss man, the alchemist, if you will, to make sure all those energies work together.
Yeah.
And if you do that, you'll have the best workplace in the world.
Oh, yeah. And that's the cool thing about it that, even like I can say where I used to be. I was past that point in my life to what they wanted.
Yeah.
I was just past it. It was like, if you got me maybe 10 years ago when I was younger, as most of my coworkers were, I think this would have been a great fit. I think it would have been everything I wanted, like I had hoped. I was too far into my journey of life to where I am like, no.
Right. The nostalgia was gone. Like everything it could have been.
Those things, are not a part of me in my life. My priorities had shifted in a different manner, in those types of things. And so it's that kind of shift, but I'm telling you guys, if you can come to that point whenever it hits you, you'll just be in that moment and everyone's just like, man, what? Dude, what? It's like,
you'll learn.
I've come to peace with it. Like when these things would happen, people would be like, what the hell?
Yeah, dude.
And even when I left my previous place of employment, I was like, dude, why? I'm like, I'm fine. I'm happy.
Yeah.
Because I came to peace with it a long time ago, that when the day came that separated ways, wish no ill to them. Hope they wish no ill to me.
Yeah.
Wish them all the best. It just wasn't the puzzle piece that didn't fit. But I was at peace that no matter when it came, I was fine.
Yeah, dude. Totally. And there's a lot to that. And a lot of people would say, oh man, there's somebody, you had a confrontation, last week at work, and like, man, I would have thumped that dude or this or that. Well, if you want to be a small-minded, gorilla, go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead. But there's consequences to our actions.
No physical action should be had unless physical action is taken against you and you're having to do it as defense, or it's defense in protection of others. Other than that, there should be no physical altercations with stupid events. Words are words. Let it go. You know,
Yeah.
easier
Yeah.
said than done.
It's so much easier. But if you start with little things like, and this sounds so silly, I know it does. If you're walking up the driveway and there's a cicada or a bug on the driveway or something, spider, whatever, and you squash it, that life's gone, right? Well, think about this for a second. That bug, that insect may have only been alive for a day. Some of them do that, right? It could have only been alive for a few days. It may have never seen a human before. It never noticed. I don't know what a human is. I'm a fly. I'm a bug. I'm a whatever. And then all of a sudden, everything gets dark really quick, and boom, it's done.
Yeah.
Life is gone. If you think of it in that, it was still a life, even though it's an insect, and a lot of us marginalize that. If you can marginalize that, you can marginalize anything else in your world, right?
I think of
you
it,
can justify anything.
I think of it in a way too. So you're putting it with life, which is really good. I always think of it in this, and I can't remember if one of my martial arts instructors or one of our instructors in the system said this, but it's like, think of every time you got mad and you had to punch a cinder block. You had to.
Yes.
You had to go punch a cinder block or something hard.
That's fantastic.
Because we would, like, if we'd always would do like stupid things on the cinder blocks and stuff like that. And so think of every time you got mad, it's like, I'm mad. Damn, I got to go punch a cinder block. Full force.
Yeah.
Like
you mean it.
You got to go at it. Just one punch though.
Yeah.
How many times do you think you really want to get pissed off to go punch a cinder block?
Right.
Like, I've broken bricks and things, like,
Sure.
a little different. There's a purpose,
Mhm.
but I'm not going to say that every time I get pissed that I want to go punch something like that, especially cinder block, because it's probably going to win.
Yeah.
But think about that in terms of, if every time you got mad, you had to do some physical force that was going to now cause you harm. No different than you saying, like, just squash it. It's done. Man, it's a different way of perspective of, I like your method of squashing, but yeah, you guys want to think about something? Think about every time you got mad, you got to go punch like a brick wall, full force. Well, guess what? You ain't going to be mad again because your hand's going to be in a cast.
Well, both of those thoughts, both of those just ideas in your head can shift your day.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not going to step on something. You're consciously making a decision to do something that's probably a little nicer than the other, right? Yeah. Okay, so how else will that affect your day then? If you're at the store and somebody makes you angry, maybe you're now not as likely to snap at them. Mm-hmm. Maybe now you're more likely to realize that, oh, you did something.
Oh, yeah.
And like you pissed this person off and you didn't even know it. But maybe that happened. You don't know. But if you don't give it a chance, then you're not doing yourself any favors.
Exactly like you said before. You cannot react from the hip. It has to be a reaction of love and thought.
It has to be a response.
Yes.
Right? Like, not a reaction.
Yeah.
Those are different.
Yes.
And some people like, oh, you're mincing words, this, that. No, I'm not. I'm using my language how it's supposed to be used.
Certain things require a reaction.
Yes.
But that's a whole nother topic of conversation.
Yes.
But you guys get it. Most of the things that we encounter in our day-to-day life require thought-out responses. Not a reaction, because we're not in this position. Some of you who are listening might be in positions where, yes, it's a reaction because it is a life kind of type thing. Ours is just a response.
Yeah, man.
There's no reaction needed for the person going slow, cutting you off. Somebody did something stupid at work. It's a response.
You want to be a drug dealer? You want to be an alchemist? They're not the same thing.
No.
They're not the same thing.
You want to turn lead into gold, or do you want to, sell whatever to turn it over and,
you want to paint some lead gold.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's it.
Yeah,
that's
it.
it.
True. There's a better way.
You want to paint it gold, or you want to make it into gold?
I paint lead gold versus I turn lead into gold. Yeah.
That's right. And that's how I feel every time I see somebody that goes and just dumps an inordinate, just an insane amount of money on something new. And then they're just like, this is it, man. This is it. And like, when you're not like, fucking, yeah, wow. They're like, well, you don't like it? Do I need to like it?
But yeah, everyone's reaction.
That's the point.
Everyone's reaction to yours doesn't need to be the same.
Well, it doesn't. But in what I'm really getting at there is, like, just because you go and you do something and you spend all this money or this time and you have this thing now, that I'm happy for you. You busted your ass. You got something nice. God love you. But there's more to it than that, I guess. It's not that that's bad.
Yeah.
I don't want to say that.
Oh, yeah.
I'd love to have new shit. It's not going to happen. I love the way making someone else feel good makes me feel.
But yeah, you should feel
It's
good
different.
for someone, you know. It's like I got a new ride. If my reaction to is not somebody else's, it doesn't. I'm not looking for that.
Right. Exactly.
No different than I was talking to one of my former coworkers, seeing how he's doing. He's got some businesses. I'm like, how are you guys doing, man? I'm like, oh, dude, glad. I'm really happy because some of
Yeah.
the stuff with the COVID stuff's been affecting. I'm like, good, man. I'm so happy. It looks like it's going good.
Right.
Everyone else doing good. Yeah, like it's happiness because it's genuine happiness that I'm happy all aspects of his life are going very well. Because I care about the man. He's my brother at work.
Yeah.
You know, and it's those things like I genuinely care. It may not interest me
Mm-hmm.
and bring me to opposite world, but it's like, hey, I'm glad it brings you excitement.
Yeah.
You know,
Hell yeah.
like my wife loves to do designing stuff. Some of it doesn't, but if it brings her happiness, I love that it does that because it brings out that passion, that creative activity in her. You see the fire in her eyes. I love that because
Totally. Yeah.
the happiness she is having makes me just thrilled.
Yeah.
And that's the cool thing that when someone has, and like many people said this, if you're wishing harm that someone's to fail, you're the problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even if you had like a bad situation with somebody else, company, whatever. No, don't wish ill on anyone. You should wish everyone success because think if the world wished success on everyone, hell, it'd be a great place to live.
Yeah, man.
But not everybody wants that.
That's
Most
right.
people wish ill versus goodwill.
Yeah. That goes back to that whole predisposition to where if I don't have it, you shouldn't have it.
It's a shirt right there. Don't wish ill, wish goodwill.
That's right, baby. That's right. Yeah. You know, you see somebody that has something and it sparks something in you and maybe you like it, maybe you don't, whatever. But if you find yourself just like, man, I really want that and I gotta have that, and you start like setting all these expectations for this goal that you want to go and buy this. Let's say it's a new truck or a car or a house or a boat or an RV or whatever. Your buddy's got it, you don't. And you start to trick yourself and you start to justify things and you start to rationalize
Will you
things.
rationalize or am I failing because I'm not here? This and that.
Well, the real failure is when you go and you do it even when you shouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Right? And we talk ourselves into that shit all the time. Like how many times have any one of us walked onto a car dealership lot and bought something, even though you probably shouldn't have or could have afforded it, or maybe you just shouldn't have. We do it all the time. We talk ourselves into crazy shit.
When I was, like I told you, it wasn't planned kind of really to get a new vehicle. It was just, man, everything aligned right. And it's like, it's a great ass deal.
No, absolutely. Yeah. And
But-
you've got to look out for those things
Yeah.
too.
And sometimes those kind of fall in your lap and you kind of just like, all right, let's just see where this goes. And then it turned out I was ready to, go the other way and it rolled out to be a good deal. But no, I looked at some vehicles and I was I thought instantaneously of you looking at this giant Expedition.
Oh, jeez.
It had lifted, got the big oversized tires, got the black rims, and I'm like, oh, it just reminds me of Jeremy's big ass Expedition he had. Like
Right.
exactly, because that's what yours looked like.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, this would be dope. I feel like I'm like Secret Service in a tank kind of thing.
Yep.
Yeah, price tag, getting close to six figures. That's not. No, I
No.
don't need that
Dude, that's my
There's
first
no
house was not that
reason.
much.
for that. And it's just like, God, what misery would it put me in if I bought that?
Yeah.
It's those things, but it's like, I got a new vehicle. Nothing changed
Yeah.
except for it's a new vehicle. Because it was just the deal, And it's those things of life, like you got to look out for those good opportunities that you got to like pounce on
Yeah, dude.
and capitalize on.
For real.
And those other times, it's just like, that's just dumb. Why would I do that?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, man. And I think that, a lot of people, and you touched on it earlier, as you grow, as you get older, those things that you're interested, they change.
Mm-hmm.
Taste buds change. All these things change. Well, I believe what's happening is nothing's really changing, except inside you're realizing, okay, that path got me to this path. This path took me to that path. That path took me to this path. And if you think that you could have done any one of those without the other,
Oh, I think if you could map it, like really.
you're missing the point. Oh, if you could map it, it probably looks like neurons firing.
Oh,
you
it'd be
know?
insane. And it, no different. You've probably been taught in your former years of sales is people buy on emotion.
Oh yeah.
Think about buying on thought, not emotion.
Yeah. We'd have a lot
Because-
smaller industries.
Trust me, like, yeah, if you didn't buy on pure emotion, and I used to when I was younger, but now, like, getting a new vehicle, I have been looking at stuff. Like, we've talked for weeks.
Yeah.
And it was just like, yeah, we'll buy a chance. And the deal came. But if the deal wasn't there, it wouldn't have happened.
Right.
I was not. But
Yeah.
it's those things. But it's other things is you take your time with it.
Yeah.
If you really want something, the time will present itself when it's right to do it.
Yeah.
Or the deal's there and it's like, man, okay, let's capitalize on it because this won't be here tomorrow.
Right.
It's those little scenarios that you guys got to look on. Don't do things based off emotion. Now, there's certain things in life that go with emotion, like obviously love, relationships, but most things should be based on thought.
I think like as far as like when you get something like that, like what you did, you've been talking about like, man, I've got this rig. It's not exactly what I want. There's other things where the payment would be less, yada, yada, yada. Oh, that's a great idea. But you know, all too many times somebody takes that and it regurgitates it enough times inside to where now you walk out with twice the payment.
Just you
justified
really
it. Yeah, you tricked yourself.
Tricked yourself
Yes.
to justify it's right.
Right, just because your emotion
And then you
wasn't
have to deal with the regret.
Yeah. Now you've got a
after
whole
the fact,
other.
And you're like,
Yeah, and that comes what? Every day, every night when you go to sleep, every month when you go to write the check, or every other month because you can't just afford it the month, whatever it may be. No, sorry guys, we're not going to go on vacation. We're not going to take that drive this week because Dad's got to make this truck payment.
yeah.
Well, what the fuck? I know that's not everybody, but if it is you,
I knew some former
come on.
clients that their vehicle payments were, would be mortgages probably for a 3,000 square foot, maybe bigger house. Probably their mortgage was probably a low to mid $300,000 house for their car payments.
yeah, yeah.
And just remember, like, I got to pay this. It's like,
That's why.
your one vehicle's payment is more than my mortgage.
That's why a lot of the European countries, and maybe even more than them,
And I was just like,
have car payments like mortgage notes,
blown
like
away.
20 years. Like you can buy a car on a 15, 20-year loan.
Dang, that's nuts.
But then again, if you buy an old Mercedes turbo diesel or an old BMW turbo diesel, it's probably going to last you a long time.
Yeah.
So, but I get that. But anyway, I'm not justifying. I'm just saying, there are times for everything. Everything's different. But when you start to look at things like the deal that landed in your lap, that's a blessing.
Yeah.
And that's a blessing that you don't have if you react with emotion or out of anything other than thought.
Because I could have reacted on the first emotion of, yeah. But no.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the deal presented, it's okay. But again, if it would have reacted on emotion right then and there,
Yep.
regret would have been coming when that first, like you said, that first payment
Yeah.
comes, you're like, oh shit, what did I do?
Yeah.
And then it's like, what do you do?
Yeah. Now you're stuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it is not easy to get out from an upside down vehicle if you didn't
No,
get a good deal.
I talked to somebody about that a while back. Like their payments, their car, their vehicle, what they owed was worth more than the value of the car now.
Yeah, it took me a lot of times doing that before I learned my lesson.
And I think it's something we all do. It's just like, oh shit.
Yeah, this is not.
We've done something
beneficial.
like that, or you put it on a credit card and you go, and you're like, oh, now I see my interest rates on my credit card with this. And it's like, huh.
Yeah. Yep. That's what started me down the rabbit hole was just a little credit card. And next thing
yeah.
you know, man, you're like, well, shit.
I didn't. You had to
Yeah.
dig back out.
Yeah. I come from nothing. Now you're going to give me something? Sweet. And you're going to let me pay this off on my own time? Sweet. Well, next thing you know, you got that attitude. Now you're really hurting. Military guys get it in that a lot. It's
rack up shit real quick.
because the companies know you get an X amount of money every month. They'll give you X amount of card. They don't care. Here you go. Have fun.
And that's part of the credit. Think of the end of Fight Club.
Then you get in trouble.
Destroying the credit card companies to reset it all from. Now, that wouldn't happen because they're on servers everywhere. But that whole premise, that little aspect of that movie, that end, you haven't seen it, sorry, but you should have by now.
Yeah.
Destroying all the credit card companies because the credit card companies are ruining people's lives. You're being controlled. But yeah, that's another time.
Yeah,
that's another time.
We could easily go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, we won't do that.
Jeff and I,
We're pushing over an hour here, man. People be like,
both. As much as we like to talk about trying to live in that moment, we are both just dreadfully guilty all the time of going to those places. Like, you know what I fucking saw? I did. Wait, whoa, hold on a minute. Calm down, bro. Like, chill out. And that's what we're talking about. You're gonna go to that place. You're going to get mad. You're going to get fired up. Hell, you may even get angry and hit somebody. But you can come back to center.
Yeah.
You can get back to where you know you're right again. And the cool part is the only person that's got to really forgive you is you.
Yeah.
And then if anybody else hasn't forgiven you for whatever, well, that's on them and they got to deal with that.
Yep.
Forgive yourself when you fuck up. Get back in your right lane. Get centered. When you don't have to talk, don't.
Mm-hmm.
But always be listening.
Yes.
Always be watching. Because
Be aware.
everybody else is talking. Everybody else is doing shit. And you're going to learn a lot more about yourself just by watching what these other people do.
Oh, it's insane.
And even the people in your house. And I know that sounds really, really harsh of me.
Well, watch your kids.
Watch 'em.
your other.
Yeah.
Because they're doing the same to you.
Yeah. You watch how they behave. And when you start noticing little things and you're like, oh my God, why do they do that? I'll tell you why. They
Yeah.
learned it from you, man.
Yeah.
You know, they learned it from all of us. And when you start noticing that your kids behave in a certain way, their attitudes a certain way, they're popping off, they're not around you, they're doing this, you have the answers inside of you to fix that.
Yeah.
Right? And sometimes I forget that too. You know, like this week it's been hard. I keep forgetting that, hey, it's on me to fix this.
Yeah.
You know, if I don't do it, nobody else does. If I keep reacting and not responding, then it's on me. It's
Sure.
on nobody else. So, you know, we could sit here, we could talk about that all day, but at the end of the day, you know, you try to, you see something, you try to do it, and you do it proficiently. Then here's, you know, as Jeff said, sharpen that sword, sharpen that skill, go teach somebody, go tell somebody about it. Don't be afraid. Don't feel silly or ashamed that you learned how to meditate or you did this or you did that.
Yeah.
Just because you don't have to care about what anybody else thinks.
Every day you should be doing something that betters who you are. Because if you're bettering yourself, somebody else will notice those things, and they will then start to look at, well, what am I not doing?
Yeah.
You'd be amazed. You start doing these little things, what other people will start doing to better themselves too.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and you know,
Lead by example.
this buddy of mine, he asked me how I was doing. I said, I'm just trying to stay in my flow, man. And that started this whole new conversation. He's like, man, I've heard more people say that.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, there's some truth to it.
Flowing through life.
That's right. There's some truth. You know, be that river, not the banks.
Exactly.
You know, and yeah. So anyway, guys, be the river, not the banks.
Be water.
That's right. And
That's not me. It's Bruce Lee. I ain't taking credit for that one.
no, don't do that.
No.
They'll find you.
So
So anyway, yeah, that's it, man. Take those lessons and remember that they are lessons. When money falls in your lap, when love falls in your lap, when these other things happen, notice that they're blessings and they're gifts, and don't take them for granted.
Absolutely.
And they will start to occur more and more frequently. I promise you. It's not a bunch of horse shit. This ain't no snake oil. Shit works.
Yes.
All right, cool guys. Love y'all, and thank you for being here with us.
Absolutely, guys.
Cool. All right, we'll see you next time.
Peace out.
Right on. Peace.
Not too loud, not too loud, not to get right. Not too loud, not too loud.